It's Friday, August the 1st, 2025, and today I'd like to talk about this notion of the marketplace and value, because in such an environment, people find it difficult to see how family, or the notion of family, can create value. Children become financial liabilities and expenses, and they take up a lot of time, especially newborn infants. When they're born, where is the real value in their presence? The only value in the presence of an infant nowadays is to get some type of financial assistance from the government, where all of those things are now about to be taken away. And so we need to be mindful and careful when we start taking a lot of these analogies too far. Family is probably one of the most greatest accomplishments that an individual human being will be able to receive full credit for, and I think it'll be the most satisfying thing for a human to do, in as much as that, I'll give you an example. In as much as that, some of the things that you do, you can't really put a price on those things, and in the end, you wouldn't want to, because they're priceless. You couldn't put a price. All the money in the world would not be sufficient to cover the cost of these things. And that's why I think family and marriage are some of the most underestimated things. And the fact that more than 50% of marriages end in divorce is more of a testimony of the maturity of today's general public, and less of an indictment against the institution. As an example, recently I told you guys my father died earlier this year, and prior to his death, about 3 months prior to his death, I talked about how I made a visit and just pointed out all of the things that he did that you couldn't put a price on. Him attending all of my sporting competitions, him being a coach of one of the baseball teams I played on when I was a youngster, him just going to work every day consistently for 35 years without fail, and up until my 21st birthday, he did that and shared the fruit of his labor with me. How much money would you pay somebody to do that? And he did it free of charge. And so I just told him, thank you. And not only did I tell him thank you, I told him, rest assured, Dad, I know where I'm at. You might be pretty content and satisfied to know that your son is in the construction industry, making good money, prospering, and all of this. But I'm going to make you proud. So it's more not a resting on my laurels, because I'm a licensed contractor. I've got the general contractor's license. I've got the C10, which is the electrician's license. I've got the C20, which is an HVAC and warm heating systems contractor. And I'm also a C36. I have the plumber's license. And currently, I'm studying to get my fire sprinkler license, working with a company part-time. And I'm going to also finish my volunteer work with a licensed contractor, which is the engineering license. which is going to give me such diversified skills that I should be able to not have to worry about economic changes. I don't have to worry about my job as whatever particular job I'm doing losing its ability to keep up with the cost of living, because people are going to be calling me for a variety of things. They're not going to just call me for plumbing work. They're not going to call me just for electrical work. They're going to call me for all of those things. And because I am multi-talented and multi-licensed and multi-skilled, I don't have to charge as much as the guy who only has one. So these are the things that we need to understand, that when we talk about sexual market value, if you want to look at sex being a market, how much money would you pay a woman to be a virgin? We know how much a woman would be willing to receive to lay down with a man as a prostitute, or even as a sugar mama, where she finds a sugar daddy to take care of her. But how much does it take for a woman to present herself, present a number, and the man who she's talking to is more than happy to dig in his wallet and get it? But I'm just curious as to how much it would be worth for a woman to basically says, I'm not in the marketplace of sex. I'm in the marketplace of life and family. And we're going to talk more about life and family later, but let me just ask you guys that question. And I really hope that this video becomes viral, because I think too many of us have bought into this notion of everything having a price, a marketplace. And I think it's a good analogy to humble women that think that their beauty is the end-all be-all, but in the marketplace, your value is lost beyond 30 years old, because there's always a batch of 18-year-olds coming in behind you to compete and win. You're going to lose in that kind of a competition. But how much of a value can you or a man place on a woman that's a virgin, that has made up her mind that she's going to be committed to the family? She's going to be committed to the future. 100%. She's not going to be hypergamous, which it's a choice. It's not nature. It's a choice. And these are the things I'm going to continue to point out every day when I make these videos. We have been socially mesmerized into thinking that so much of our behavior is dictated by instinct or nature. But nature doesn't have a moral code. Nature is survive or die, where we have social constructs like money. Money is an imaginary social construct that we all agree to. But how can a bear or a female deer be hypergamous when the only thing she's looking at is the deer with his big antlers or the bear with his big furry coat? You know, it's ridiculous that that concept of hypergamy was something that we as men and women just bought into. But with that, the question of the day is, how much value can you place on a woman that says poo-poo to this notion of hypergamy, poo-poo to this notion of sexual marketplace value, and focuses on what's real valuable? Because I'm going to do a video later where I'm going to carry this further on in terms of leadership and the marketplace of jobs. Talk to you guys then.